Don't adjust your audio. That's not a New Jersey accent. That is a South African accent. One of not only my favorite professors from Kellogg, but one of my friends, confidants, constantly reaching out for advice and guidance. I've taken a lot more from this person than I've given. That continues today. Andrew Sykes, thanks for taking the time to chat with me for a few minutes. How are you?
Better than good and better than most, as one of my favorite professional speakers would say. And I'm thrilled to be here and have this conversation. Thank you for your kind compliments, and the feeling is mutual.
It is, I'm turning back the clock a half decade going into my MBA journey as one of few people from Kellogg who's not healthcare, finance, consulting, whatever the case may be, having the opportunity to take multiple courses from you. I just want to show some gratitude. You've been transformative in my career. And I want to talk a little bit about your career today, starting as an actuarial. Like, let's go back there. Let's go back to South Africa. Tell me about your earliest kind of career chapters.
Yeah. Well, surprising to many who meet me, I did start my life in actuarial science, or as an actuary, as we call ourselves, which is probably the furthest thing from what I do today, all about statistics and mathematics and finance, and a very traditionally nerdy, cerebral, but much valued skill for insurance companies and retirement funds, etc. And I wish I could say it was intention that had me start my own business at 21, but honestly, it was courage over wisdom. And the benefit of that bravado was I realized very quickly being smart isn't a great answer in life if you can't sell what you know. And I was humbled by the fact that fresh out of college with a degree in actuarial science, I couldn't sell anyone anything. And I had to very quickly learn how to engage with people, how to lead a conversation, how to sell, what that even meant. And I had the good fortune of being in the right place at the right time and started an employee benefits consulting business, healthcare. But it took me all over South Africa to mining companies and manufacturing. And I got to see people actually making stuff with their hands versus doing calculations on a spreadsheet as the real fabric of an economy, and also people for whom life is much, much harder than it has been, certainly for me and for many of us who are privileged. And that gave me a real insight into what it means to be a responsible business person and what opportunity comes with privilege. And most importantly, it just gave me an opportunity to do the more fun things in life, which is figure out how to interact with people and help other people, whether they are the most sophisticated or by societal standards, the most basic in their job, and everything in between. Because I don't know about you, but I often would prefer, and my sense, given your mission, is you would prefer hanging out with the people that actually make the bridges and the buildings and the roads that we get to use every day instead of the people who talk about doing it.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's that relatability is so critically important. And I think, that's kind of that's unique in the sense of the mission that I feel today, where I have this ability to relate to the kind of blue collar frontline worker, but then also the white collar strategic boardroom conversation. One of the things that inspires me the most about you is kind of this opportunity to zoom out beyond just the product or the service you're talking about. And maybe this is where you bring in some of the actuarial, more of the quantitative side of your brain functionality. But you look at kind of sales and relationship building very much from a scientific perspective, a human science perspective, and continue to calibrate that. Can you just give me a couple of examples of the most different types of engagements or different types of companies you've worked with, and how you've kind of distilled that to pattern recognition, and just how do you simplify things so effectively?
Yeah. Well, when I started my career, I had as a chairman one of those people who I then described and who others would describe as a natural salesperson. And when I asked him the question, how do you do it? He didn't have much of a good answer. So I guess my actual brain did kick in because I wanted to understand the formula of how to be an awesome, charismatic, magnetic human being, which sounds a little ridiculous when I say it out loud. But as it turns out, I've discovered that interpersonal relationships and communication and leadership and sales and magnetism and charisma are skills, not traits. that we can all learn. And seriously, if an actuary could come out of the back room with a pocket protector and a calculator and now find himself teaching people how to sell and lead, anyone can figure out these skills. But I do think I have something to offer in being able to label and put into frameworks what other people learn by intuition or by luck. And I hope it's simple for people, but it's the only way that I get to do it is like the paint by numbers of how to be a better human being. And maybe the greatest insight I've gotten in my career is realizing all of it is just a set of language acts, which is a strange way of saying it. But if you think about every bridge, every building, every democracy, everything that humans have ever created, it started as an idea, was shared in a conversation by someone in a particular way that inspired the people who actually did the work to build this amazing earth we've got. And by the way, to destroy it. So acts of creation are also acts of destruction in this, but they all come from this amazing instrument of future creation we've got, we call our voice. And so what I'm really interested in is the physics of how an idea becomes a conversation that has you and I go and do stuff tomorrow with intention. And then we wake up and next Friday, there's a new road down the middle of Illinois.
I got to be careful and chasing down these rabbit holes. But hearing that reminds me of kind of now this renaissance you have in your career where you bring in these new interesting facets where now you're a poetry author and you're, to me, storytelling is such a critical piece to get alignment of your team and to really accomplish big things. You have to bring your organization together. I think one of the traps I fall into, I don't know if it's business school or I tend to overcomplicate things. Maybe I have a vocabulary that doesn't resonate with everybody. And so inspiring people in the stories you tell, keep things as simple as possible. We'll have to have a follow up conversation to talk about your poetry. I have two quick things I need to bring up. I'm curious, does the pocket protector still fit in your purple suit?
The honest truth is I never had one, but I must one out one day. And yes, I love purple suits only because I've noticed, firstly, most men wear black, brown, gray, or blue, and women wear these amazing colors. So in my commitment to equality among the genders, it goes both ways. I want to wear colorful suits. But also, I teach sales. And honestly, when I show up in a purple suit, people write me off. It's a beautiful living example of don't judge a book by the cover, I hope.
It's
It does create a barrier for people. And the conversation we have is like, notice how you judged me in a purple suit. The first to make fun of myself because the only thing funny about me is the things you can laugh at my stupidity. I don't have a good sense of humor other than just being stupidly funny. Um, and I think there's a method in the madness of how we choose to show up in the world, whether you're working a blue collar job or a white collar job. Why do we have to take ourselves so seriously?
I totally agree. I'm not judging by the purple suit. I had the vivid memory of seeing you deliver your TED talk in kind of the you're synonymous with the purple suit, and it's very. I'm going to include a link to that when we post this when we go live with this interview because I think purple is oversimplifying it. It's a very rich shade of purple. Purple is the color of royalty.
Yeah, this is more like Barney, if you remember that character from the cartoons.
Absolutely, it's before we kind of shift into these three questions that I really want to get to, I recently heard Ken Griffin, the founder of Citadel. He talked about his former business partner that was a high school professor of his. He got to take one thing into his office, and as he's relocated from Chicago down to Miami, he has this little $5 frame in his office that said, if we have to eat, someone has to sell. And that has really stuck with me because there's this kind of stigma against selling where people think about it a lot in the context of a used car sale environment. I just went and bought a used car. I had a very pleasant experience, but there's that stigma against it. And so I really like the way in which the framework you use for entrepreneurial selling and the engagements you do through habits at work. It's very compelling. It's relationship building, it's trust building. And one of the most powerful tools that you've taught me in my career is kind of validating others and passing off authority and making sure that you empower your team, which I think leads me into my first question. You have young kids today, they're growing up fast, just like mine are. What advice do you have for those kind of 17, 18-year-olds that are nearing the end of high school, entering adulthood? What advice do you give them today?
Yeah. My first piece of advice would be to bet big on roughly formed intentions. What I mean by that is We spend a long time trying to come up with the perfect answer, and then we tentatively try it out, waiting to see if it works. But if life was a game and the stakes were high, like you only had 3 months to live, wouldn't you have the biggest swing possible and go all in for it? And so while you do want to be intentional about your choices, make those choices and stick with them and put your life into them, because I would rather have a spectacular failure than a mild success.
Mm. I'm gonna write down the timestamp for that. That's a great clip right there. How we're not gonna have a time to get to everything, but given the fact that you're a CEO today, you're a professor, all the different hats that you wear, all of the stakeholders, all of your customers, what do you want your reputation to be? How do you want people to think of Andrew Sykes?
That he stood for peace, first and foremost, that he spent his life or chose his life to be for helping other people make progress through ruthlessly developing their skills in the service of other human beings.
Mm.
That would be more than enough for legacy, if that's even a thing that we're up to in life. Like, what
Be
else do
more than enough. Be more.
you? Yeah,
I love that. I think about it so much in the context of karma, and so many people will ask for stuff. But so much of our communication, when we haven't talked for a little while, you'll outbound kind of, you'll have some outbound, you'll shoot me a text, hey, is there anything I can help you with at the moment? And those types of things, just offering help, offering support, being a sounding board, those, I'm just a firm believer in what goes around comes around. And so always looking to be of service for people and serving other people is just, that's great. I certainly have some room to grow in that area. I'll often come to you with my hand out, seeking advice. So appreciate you continuing to be so selfless.
yeah. And don't get me wrong, I go to other people for help all the time because I happen to think the game of helping other people is just fun for everyone. So I don't want to, weirdly to say it, I don't want to selfishly be the person trying to serve. What about the people who are trying to help me? Let them have some fun too, because God knows I need some help.
I'm super excited to see where you go with this question, but Andrew Sykes is a corporation. If you're kind of writing out your core values, what's one of your favorite core values that you live by personally and professionally?
Exemplify your brand.
Tell me more.
So if you say that our brand is trustworthy, be the most trustworthy human being you can be. If you say our brand is reliability, then like you should embody that. So if people saw you, met you, they would say about you, that person is super reliable.
Mm.
Because there seems to often be a mismatch between the values we say our company has, like it's some distant being, and then we behave as we are. What are values but the way that the humans in an organization work? So I love meeting people from a company where they seem to be the product of the company.
Yeah,
So if you're selling, I don't know, amazing paving solutions as you once did in your life, or you're building bridges, somehow I need to feel like you're that walking personification of the thing that you do in life.
totally. That, I've had the opportunity to kind of craft core values at a few different organizations today. And I think a lot of organizations fall into this trap of more of the marketing core values and like core values quality or safety or those types of things. And to me, there's a difference between table stakes and who you are at your core. Here, a lot of construction companies talk about safety, yet they go do a roof and their team, they're not tied off or they're doing other things that are unsafe. To your point, it's do what you say you're going to do, right? Is really the message there, and it's a profound one. It's doing the right thing when no one's watching, and that's the way in which I want to live my life.
It's
Am I
awesome.
perfect? Absolutely not. But having accountability partners like you certainly gets me on the right direction. I told you time was going to fly. I absolutely loved this conversation. So grateful for this relationship. Is there anything I can help you with at the moment?
You can help me figure out how better to bring the work of trustworthiness to the people who actually make our country work. The amazing people who have the blue collar jobs, who are written off by white collar workers, but without whom we wouldn't have a country.
I got some ideas. I can help you do that. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful time traveling in Europe, and I look forward to talking to you soon, brother.
In my honor, back at you. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.